When she laughed after I asked about another man, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply smiled, because I had just decided she wouldn't see the storm coming. Let's begin. I knew something was wrong the moment Megan stopped finishing her coffee. It sounds silly, mundane even, but for the past 8 years, every morning like clockwork, she'd drink the last few sips with a hum, tapping her wedding ring against the ceramic. It was a ritual, like the way she'd kiss my cheek twice before rushing out the door for her marketing meetings in downtown Denver. But lately, her mug sat half full. Her phone was always face down, and she stopped humming. I didn't ask, not at first. Because when you love someone, you convince yourself of the best possible lie, that they'd never betray you. My name is Caleb Hughes. I run logistics for a regional shipping firm. Nothing fancy, but honest work. Megan, my wife, is what people would call sharp. Sharp smile, sharp walk, sharp words. She worked her way up from assistant to regional marketing director for one of the biggest cosmetics chains in Colorado. We met when we were 24, moved in by 25, married by 27, and now at 35, I was starting to wonder if all the sharp edges she carried weren't just ambition, but blades. The change started slow, a little distance, less touch, a tighter jaw when I mentioned date nights. She started staying late more often, blaming back-to-back campaigns. I told myself it was work stress. I believed it, until the night I saw the Uber receipts. It was a Tuesday. Megan was in the shower, and I needed to grab the phone charger from her purse. That's when her screen lit up, notifications from a hidden email. I tapped it, opened it, and there they were. Dozens of Uber receipts to a hotel downtown. Not to the office, not to a client dinner, to the Visage Hotel. Same suite, same driver name. Repeated every Thursday and Saturday. I didn't breathe. I didn't shout. I walked outside, sat in the cold on our porch, and just stared at the stars. For 20 minutes. Then I went back inside like nothing happened. Because sometimes, when your heart breaks, it doesn't explode. It rots slowly, until there's nothing left but strategy. The next morning, Megan kissed my cheek with that same tired smile. I whispered, "Your coffee's getting cold again." She laughed and said, "Guess I've just lost the taste for it." I smiled too. "Yeah, seems like you've lost the taste for a lot of things." She didn't catch it. That day, I contacted someone I never thought I'd need, Ryan Westbrook. He was a friend from college turned private investigator. He once tracked down a CEO's hidden mistress for a scandal-ridden divorce. I told him I needed the full package: texts, calls, photos, location logs. I gave him the address for the Visage. He didn't ask questions. He simply said, 2 weeks. You'll have everything. While Ryan got to work, I became the perfect husband. I cleaned. I cooked. I massaged her shoulders after her long days, all while noting the lies she wrapped herself in. The cheap perfume she never wore before. The stutter when I asked if she wanted to plan our anniversary. The red marks on her neck after strategy meetings. She had no idea I was building a case, not for the court, but for something more satisfying. She thought I was clueless, but I was counting down. 1 week later, Ryan texted, "Meet me. It's worse than you think." Ryan met me at a small diner off I-70. He slid a plain brown folder across the table like he was passing a bomb. I didn't touch it yet. I just looked at him. "You're sure?" I asked. He didn't blink. His name's Travis Carver. 42. Divorced. VP of brand partnerships at her firm. Lives alone in a penthouse off Blake Street. They've been seeing each other for at least 3 months, probably longer. I've got timestamps. Photos. Even caught them at a restaurant last Friday. Same night, she told you she was working late on a campaign proposal. I opened the folder. There it was. My wife, Megan, with her hands tangled in Travis's jacket, lips on his in the back seat of a black Lincoln. A timestamp in the corner. Her face tilted just enough to reveal the faint smirk she always gave me when she used to tease me about my beard. Only now, it was someone else making her laugh. Page after page, the story unfolded. Texts about missing me while with him, emails about coordinating schedules so they wouldn't be seen, even a voice memo she accidentally left on while giggling and whispering in Travis's ear. And then, something snapped in me. Not the kind of snap that makes you do something reckless. It was colder than that. Sharper. It was the realization that she wasn't sorry. She wasn't struggling. She wasn't lost. She was choosing this. Every day. I closed the folder. "I need you to dig deeper," I said to Ryan. I want to know everything. Has she received any gifts? Promotions linked to him? I want a trail. I want her entire illusion to collapse when I pull one thread. He nodded. Give me another week. That night, Megan came home glowing. Literally glowing. She threw her purse down and smiled like nothing had happened. Guess who just landed the new East Coast luxury brand account, she said. That's a big deal. Might mean a promotion to national director. I feigned surprise. That's incredible. You deserve it. She kissed my cheek. Her lipstick left a mark. I didn't wipe it off. Instead, I looked in her eyes and asked, was Travis proud of you? She paused, just long enough, then laughed. Don't start that again, she said, walking away. But I saw it. The flicker. The crack. She was rattled. For the first time, she knew I might not be asleep anymore. The next day, I began step one. I copied the files to 2 drives. One went to a safe deposit box. The other I encrypted and stored in cloud storage. Ryan sent me a new batch of evidence. Turns out Travis had been sleeping with at least one other subordinate before Megan. That woman, Carly Jensen, had been quietly transferred out after rumors swirled. There were emails, photos, company complaints that went unanswered, and Megan's name was mentioned in a few threads, someone suggesting she was next in line for the Carver shortcut. I had everything. Now it was time to return the favor. First, I anonymously forwarded documents to the company's compliance office. Not just about Megan and Travis, but about the repeated pattern. I attached the anonymous witness threads, redacted names, and even HR complaints that Ryan had unearthed. I marked them urgent, ethics violation, and risk of litigation. Then I sent a separate envelope to a reporter at the Denver Business Review. A clean packet labeled possible corporate favoritism, an internal harassment pattern involving senior exec. The fuse was lit. Megan had no idea. That weekend, I cooked dinner. Candlelit. Steak, roasted garlic mash, her favorite wine. She looked relaxed, comfortable, and so smug. Caleb, she said, sipping her wine. I've been thinking we should take a trip. Maybe New York. Just us. I smiled and nodded. Sure. Let's plan something nice. You work so hard. You deserve something unforgettable. She reached across the table, touched my hand, and I thought to myself, you have no idea how unforgettable it's about to get. Because the next morning, Travis Carver's name was on every internal email thread. By noon, he was placed on administrative leave. By 3 p.m., Megan got a call from HR. She went pale. Her fork froze halfway to her mouth. What's wrong? I asked, pretending to scroll my phone. Nothing, she muttered, standing up. I need to run to the office real quick. On a Sunday, she didn't answer. I watched her grab her coat and keys, rushing out the door. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. Not because it was over, but because it was finally beginning. Megan didn't return that night. She texted just after 11 p.m., a short, jittery message. Staying at Rachel's. Need space to think. A lie. She wasn't at Rachel's. She was in the fallout zone, trying to hold together the pieces of a collapsing affair that had cost her more than she imagined. By Monday morning, the news broke in a way she couldn't have prepared for. Not on a company email, not through HR, but on LinkedIn. A former employee anonymously posted a detailed expose of the toxic culture inside Megan and Travis's company. The post cited multiple relationships between executives and employees leading to favoritism, health risks, and a cover-up. No names. But the photos Ryan had leaked to the journalist? They didn't need captions. It didn't take long before people started connecting the dots in the comments. Megan's name trended in whispers. Within hours, clients began to call the company. Some threatened to cancel contracts. Others demanded clarification on recent ethical concerns. Then the board stepped in. Ryan kept me updated in real time. She's being brought in for questioning tomorrow. HR has emails, meeting room logs, even the hotel charges filed on the company card. Travis was stupid. He didn't hide anything. And Megan? I asked. He paused. From what I hear, she's been crying in her office for 3 hours. Alone. It should have satisfied me. But it didn't. Not yet. Because she still hadn't looked me in the eyes and admitted it. That night, she came home like a ghost. Eyes swollen. Mascara streaked. She didn't say a word as she walked past me. She didn't ask why I was up. She didn't even look surprised that I hadn't texted her all day. She just dropped her purse, sat on the couch, and stared blankly at the dark TV. I ruined everything, she whispered after a while. I didn't respond. She turned slowly to me. Caleb, I didn't mean for this to happen. Which part? I asked. My voice was calm, controlled. The lies, the affair, or the fact that you were sloppy enough to think no one would find out? She flinched. Was it just Travis? I asked. Or were there more? She shook her head. No, just him. I was lonely. I was tired. I didn't know how to talk to you anymore. You were always so predictable. There it was. The truth. She didn't cheat because she lacked love. She cheated because I was steady, safe. And to someone like Megan, that wasn't exciting anymore. I gave you everything, I said. I gave you peace. And you wanted chaos. It wasn't just that. He made me feel seen, alive again. And now, her voice cracked. Now I feel disgusting. I stood up, walked to the fireplace where I had stashed a small envelope. I tossed it on a coffee table. She stared at it. What's that? Everything HR has. And more, including what I sent to the board. You see, Megan, you didn't just cheat on me. You disrespected every part of our life. You made me the idiot in a room full of people who knew. She started sobbing. Please, Caleb, please. I'll resign quietly. I'll go to therapy. I'll do anything. No, I interrupted. You'll do nothing. You'll sit there and watch as the life you built on deception turns to dust. She dropped her head in her hands. And then came the worst part for her. I walked to the hallway, opened the closet, rolled out my suitcase. What are you doing? She asked. I'm leaving. But this is my mess. No, Megan, it's ours. Because you dragged me into it. And now, I'm taking myself out. She followed me to the door. Where will you go? I turned and smiled. Anywhere your name doesn't come up when people Google me. Her knees buckled, but I didn't catch her. Because the next chapter of my life didn't have space for traitors, only for peace. That night, I checked into a hotel under a different name. The next morning, she was all over the news. Marketing VP resigns amid internal scandal. Favoritism and misconduct allegations surface. Her LinkedIn was wiped. Her portfolio site shut down. Friends stopped liking her photos. Brands unfollowed her. The board issued a formal apology to shareholders. Travis was suspended indefinitely pending a full investigation. But the true death blow? I still had one card left, and I was about to play it. I waited 3 weeks before I sent the final file. By then, Megan's resignation was public. Travis had been dismissed. But what people didn't know, what even Megan hadn't pieced together, was that I had set one more trap. Not for her career. That was already in ruins. Not even for her reputation. This was for her soul. See, Megan had one last illusion. That she could walk away from this, rebuild quietly, blame it all on office politics, and maybe, just maybe, convince herself it was a bad chapter, not a bad story. She even started posting again. Generic motivational quotes. A new headshot. Excited for the next chapter. But the next chapter wasn't coming. Because I was writing the ending. Ryan had uncovered something else. Something neither of us expected. Turns out Travis had promised Megan a promotion that was never his to give. Emails between him and the senior HR officer clearly stated that Megan was not the most qualified candidate for the East Coast position. That she lacked leadership experience. That she had missed targets 3 quarters in a row. But guess what? Travis pushed it through anyway. He claimed special circumstances and client relationships. Ryan even found an internal audit draft buried deep in the system that questioned the legitimacy of the promotion. It was never sent. It was buried. Until now. I compiled the entire timeline, emails, performance reviews, altered reports, the HR audit, all connected to her sudden rise. I tied it with one bow. This wasn't infidelity. It was fraud. Then I sent it anonymously to 3 people. The company's compliance office. A major client who had pulled out weeks earlier. Megan's former mentor. An industry icon who hated shortcuts. By Friday, it was everywhere. This time, it wasn't just whispers. Was Megan Foster's career built on sleeping with a superior? Did she fake her way to the top? Former exec faces ethical inquiry over manipulated performance data. No company touched her. Her phone went silent. Recruiters who once called weekly ghosted. The awards she'd once proudly displayed in our living room. Irrelevant. But here's the real twist. Megan still didn't know it was me. Not until she showed up outside the new condo I was renting, disheveled, makeup smudged, eyes wide like a hunted animal. "You did this," she whispered. I didn't say anything, just stood in the doorway. "I know it was you, Caleb. You waited until I was down, then kicked the last piece out from under me." I folded my arms. "No, you kicked it out yourself. I just made sure people noticed." Her voice cracked. "Do you want me to disappear? Is that it? Because I will. Just say it." I stepped forward. "What I want," I said slowly, "is for you to understand something. You didn't just cheat. You didn't just lie. You stood beside me, ate meals I cooked, laughed with me, and planned a future while already living a double life. You treated me like furniture, useful, invisible, replaceable." She wiped a tear. "I'm sorry," she said for the first time, like she meant it. I nodded. "And I hope you stay sorry. Not because I hate you, but because you should finally understand the weight of what you did." She stood there, silent. "I'm rebuilding," I added. "And you? You're going to stay right here in the rubble you made." I shut the door and locked it. Later that night, I did something I never thought I'd do. I booked a flight to Portland, a small town just outside the city. A job opening had come through, one I had applied a month ago as a joke. Operations director at a sustainable shipping startup. Quiet, honest work. A place where no one knew my name, where I could just breathe. Before I left Megan one last envelope. No files, no evidence, just a note. "I loved you more than you ever deserved. Now I love the peace more than I ever thought possible. Goodbye." And that was it. The house. Sold. Our wedding photos. Deleted. Her number? Blocked. My future? Untouched by her anymore. I didn't gloat. Didn't post. Didn't toast her downfall. Because I didn't need to win publicly. I just needed to know she'd remember, every single day, that I could have destroyed her louder, but chose silence instead. Because sometimes the quietest revenge is the one they hear the longest. Portland was gray when I arrived. Not gloomy, just soft. Misty mornings and quiet streets. A place built for reinvention. I rented a small cottage near the outskirts. Nothing fancy, just enough. The job was real. The people were kind. They didn't care who I had been, what I had endured. Here I was just Caleb. No backstory. No betrayal dragging behind me like a shadow. It felt like freedom for the first time in years. I started running again. Early mornings before dawn. Shoes on wet pavement. Not to punish myself. Just to feel movement that wasn't fueled by stress or suspicion. I cooked for one. I read books. I found a trail behind the cottage that led to a moss-covered bench with a view of the valley. I started spending my Sunday mornings there, drinking coffee that I finished every last drop of. Megan didn't contact me again. She couldn't. I had changed numbers, emails, cities, jobs. She didn't exist in my world anymore. But every once in a while, I'd hear whispers from Ryan, mostly. She had tried to land interviews with smaller agencies. None responded. Word traveled. The scandal had stained her name more deeply than even I anticipated. One firm offered her a remote contract. She accepted. But it fell apart when someone leaked a copy of the HR document from her last job. It wasn't me. I had already moved on. But the world she built had collapsed, and it kept echoing. She moved back to Illinois, I heard, closer to her sister. Her social media went dark. No more filtered sunsets or office selfies. Just silence. Sometimes, silence is the sound of someone living with their choices. Meanwhile, I kept building. I didn't date, not at first. Not because I was afraid, but because I needed to remember who I was before I became a version of myself built around forgiveness I never received. I spent time with people who didn't need to know my past. Coworkers who laughed freely. A local barista who remembered my order. A woman at the farmer's market who once offered me a free basket of peaches just because I looked tired. Little acts of kindness. Healing. Then one day, I met Erin. She was nothing like Megan. Erin had warm eyes and a blunt laugh. She asked real questions. She didn't perform affection. She offered it quietly, genuinely. We met at a community art night. She spilled paint on my jeans and apologized with homemade cookies. It was simple, unforced. When I finally told her the story, not all of it, just enough, she didn't gasp or lean in like it was gossip. She just squeezed my hand and said, "You didn't deserve that. I'm glad you left." And in that moment, I realized what true peace sounded like. It wasn't a silence filled with tension. It was a silence that felt like home. Months passed, and then one day, a letter arrived at my new address. No return label. Just my name, handwritten. I opened it slowly. 3 pages. Megan's handwriting. I lost everything. You know that. But what hurts most isn't the career or the reputation. It's knowing I destroyed the only person who ever truly loved me. I don't expect forgiveness. I wouldn't accept it even if you offered it. I just needed you to know I'm sorry. Not just for what I did, but for what I let myself become. If this is the last time our names are in the same sentence, I hope it's in peace. I hope you found something better. Something warmer. Something real. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I folded the letter, placed it back in the envelope, and slid it into the drawer where I kept old rental keys and loose change. Because I didn't need closure anymore. I had built my own. And Megan? She would spend the rest of her life understanding that forgiveness is not the absence of consequence. It's the absence of access. That was my revenge. Not fire, not ruin, but distance. A distance so wide, so permanent, that no apology could ever cross it. Because the ultimate punishment for someone who destroys everything is watching you live beautifully without them.